No
Yeah.
problem. Okay,
Excellent.
well, let's start over. Welcome to ProfCon 2022. I'm so happy to be here. I have a sweater on. It's freezing cold in Rexburg, Idaho. We got the bottom end of that storm that you've seen in Yellowstone. We didn't get the rain, but there was snow up there this morning. So I'm happy to be in my office. If you hear some noise, we're still in session and class is about ready to exchange, so I apologize for that. What I want to talk about today is how do you bring your simulations to life by creating stories around the mimic simulations. And as we do that, we're going to talk about why Stukent, why I believe Stukent is the best product on the planet. I want to talk to you about what I call on my campus as a C3 course, and kind of lead you through some of the things I do when I'm not teaching on campus, where I go in and look at courses, I pull them apart with teams of people, and we make the courses relevant. And then I'm going to show what I did into Mimic to make Mimic have another dimension to it, to take the Mimic simulation and actually put it inside a real business. Real as in the BUHI bag company becomes an actual business on the back end and the front end for the students. And then I want to talk to you about some of the content that my students are creating, networking, mentoring, and just kind of take you on kind of what my day-to-day looks like when I'm working with Mimic. But before that, the pets at ProfCon, I just threw that in the competition. This is my puppy, Poppy. I just want you to know I was the dad that told my kids no for 26 years. And I have a youngest son who his birthday, he thinks is a national holiday. And somehow I got overridden and we have a dog. And the dog chose me as the one that she likes. And so I'm going to enter these photos. Okay, Stukent. Helping professors, help students, help the world. I have really seen this come to life this year on campus for me. I'm in the rebuilding development of what we had a marketing strategies course. And our marketing strategies course was the course that's only being taught online. And I became the course lead, and the teachers that were teaching this course are retired marketing professionals, and they were angry. They were ready to revolt. They were not happy with the way the class was performing. It wasn't giving students a real world example. It was just a bunch of case studies and a bunch of papers. It reminded me of those days when I was in my constitutional law class. I would come in for 3 hours and memorize Supreme Court cases, and it wasn't fun because the modality of the way it wasn't being taught, it was really hard to retain information, and it was easy for me to check out of that class. And in this marketing class, the students were checking out, the professors were frustrated, and it hadn't been changed up in 8 years. And so when I got the course, I took a look at it, and the first place I went was to Stukent. And it's the marketing principles book that I'm using. And this statement of helping students help the world, this course is going to go out to possibly 188 countries. Right now, this course online that we've rebuilt with the simulations, it's in Africa, it's in Brazil. I didn't get a list of all of the countries that it's in, but we will hit most of these 188 countries. And Stukent has been awesome because there's some things that they've had to do on the back end to get the simulations to work in these countries, because the students have to go to internet cafes to make sure that the technology works. And we're in the, every week we have a piloting meeting and we go through all of the data. And this course is outperforming what we thought it was going to do in the first pilot session. I spent some time with Thomson Southwestern, which is now Cengage. I love that company, and we did great things. But Stukent is on the forefront of this revolution in the digital age, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. And the one thing that I would say is, you guys have success in your courses with Mimic. Tell your colleagues about it, because how great would it be to be able to have other courses that Stukent offers, and you could have your entire department surrounded with energetic Jill and all of the characters from the simulation to make their whole college success about the Mimic simulations. Because what we learned from the simulations is real world It gives us the best preparation for our students to be prepared to enter into the workforce. And so Stu and crew, thank you. I appreciate all that you've done. I'll just share one thing. I received a note from a student the other day from Stu. This was his feedback from the simulation. He says, I hope you're doing well. It's been a while. It's funny, I took your social media marketing class a few years ago, and I was fully planned on working as an accountant, and now my whole career is an influencer marketing. Aha. So I'm having business students. I'm having students from all over my campus. The social media marketing course that I created, it's now required in 17 different majors on campus. I didn't even go out and promote the course. Healthcare administration is a big requirement for their program. Exercise science, all of their students have to come take this class. I've had students from welding, automotive, accounting, finance, and it's just kind of steamrolled, and it's one of the most popular courses on campus. And it would not be that if it wasn't for the wonderful work of Stu and his team at Stukent and the simulations. And so if you have any questions about some of the simulation stuff, and you want to talk to them from an academic perspective, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, so on my campus, we have this, besides teaching my regular courses, I'm in charge of a committee which is called C3. And what C3 is, I don't know why that slide's not coming out. C3 is a committee of faculty and instruction technology people, and we are assigned a course, and we go in and we tear the course apart. And I participated this in the humanities department. Our humanities department was seeing 85% of all of our students within our College of Business and Communication taking one humanities course. And so we met together as a council, and they brought me in as a representative from the business school, and they wanted to know what we could do to get our students excited about humanities. Because when I took humanities, it was about memorizing paintings and memorizing music and stuff that I think I remember one painting from my course. And it was the same course that hadn't been changed up in 20 years. And so we met over 2 weeks during our summer break. We met every day for 8 hours. And in the course of 2 weeks, we took the course and we totally redesigned it and we brought it to life. And some of the process is that we wrestled with what the problems, we studied, we discussed. We have a whole library of academic articles and pedagogy and all of those wonderful academic forms of literature that we read, we discussed, and then we created a class. And it has measurable outcomes. And what happened in the humanities department was pretty incredible, because I took some of the things that I learned from Stukent and we brought it to life. Instead of memorizing paintings, we introduced students to technology. And I'm just going to show you a couple of the things that we did. So instead of memorizing paintings, we had students create a virtual museum. I'm going to play this for you. Maybe. Well, maybe I'm not going to play it for you. It was working a minute ago. But this virtual museum is, we had students go and take the paintings that were part of the course, and they had to go create their own museum, and they had to be a, here was the setup, is that the students were in charge of being a tour guide at the museum. They had to create the museum, and then they had to give a tour of the museum, and the museum guests were a group of businessmen and women, which company had just gave the museum $1 million endowment, and this was a private tour. And so there's the business situation that got injected into this. So the students now understood, well, this is a business deal. I've really got to understand these paintings because they can pull you down with, and I created a case around it. Let me take you out to this and I'll show you. So this is what one of the students did.
really excited to show you what we have. The theme of the exhibit today is heroism, or the lack thereof. When looking up what the dictionary defines as heroism, it says great bravery. But I would like to add that it is great bravery when facing or dealing with challenges.
Are you guys able to see that?
Demonstrations of great bravery in both the artists themselves and the artwork they produced. The first artwork we will be looking at is the Statue of David by Verrocchio. Throughout the Renaissance period, there are several renditions of the Statue of David. However, this one in particular is made from marble, and unlike most of the statues of the time, was not meant to decorate a building, but rather meant to stand alone. This statue was commissioned by the Medici, which was a prominent patron family of the time. The model for this statue is none other than Leonardo da Vinci at age 13. As you can see.
All right, so I don't know if you're able to see that or not, but this student used CGI, and it was pretty incredible. The next thing that we did is in another class is the students were not testing well. They didn't want to memorize things. They just weren't doing the work. And so we created a podcast where we had the students come in, and the setting was that you're distinguished panelists on a critically praised NPR podcast.
Will you reshare your presentation, Jack? We're not seeing it.
Were you able to see that other video?
We were able to see, yeah, most of the video. Looked pretty awesome.
Okay, here we go. So you're a distinguished panelist on the critically praised NPR podcast, American Ride, a modern conversation moderated by internationally renowned scholar, Dr. Dearden Flora. As a member, you have been invited to share your expertise and insights on a specific historical period discussing the significant historical events. And then it gives them all of the setup. But the goal for this was we broke them down into groups 3 or 4. We created bumper music that sounded like an NPR radio, like a real podcast. We gave that to the students. And then the moderator of the podcast was the faculty member, and he led the discussion. What the students didn't understand is that this was really an oral examination. They recorded the interaction with the professor. They loaded it up in a podcast, put the bumper music from NPR. Then they put it all together, and then they submitted it as an assignment. And because of this, the students, it took off. They saw a change in grades. The retention went up, and the students had a blast because they were playing in the technologies that the students love. They just weren't memorizing things. They were actually engaged. Plus, it gave them one-on-one time with a professor, which for most people, that's really hard to get. And to have a professor so excited to sit into a 4 to 5 with students and to lead a panel discussion was pretty incredible. So those are some of the things that I'm doing on my campus. I just finished a Chinese Spanish course where we did some similar things. So if you're interested in learning kind of what we do there, let me know.
Will you share or present the slideshow so we can just see the text a little better on those? So up in the slideshow in the right, yeah. Perfect.
There we go. Sorry, guys. Okay, so how does this play into BUHI? I love this simulation so much. It's my favorite thing, and it's changed the way that I teach. It's taken what I've done in the humanities courses, I've taken that stuff, and I continue to mess around with BUHI, or BUHI, as I was corrected last year. If you go back and you look at the data on the simulations, you can just look at these numbers of how powerful simulation learning is, how it works, what students say about it, how they love it, the retention, what they retain, the skill sets they develop, what they learn. And I'm seeing what happens from the simulation when they take it to the next level into their first job. If they do it right, it sets them up for a really great first promotion within that first job. So students who have never used a simulation and presented with an option, 73.6%, I would choose the course that does use a simulation. Okay, so the data is there. Indicate how much you agree with the following statements. Classes that use simulations are more fun than classes that do not. You just look at the numbers. And the word fun, I think that we can have fun as academics. We have to retain a level of professionalism, but we also have to have fun because these students are in a TikTok world. They're in 30-second videos, they're in Instagram stories, and they're surrounded by fun. Okay, so let's talk about Mimic, how I've added another dimension, how content is king, and what we can do to improve in the coursework and in the classroom. So this is one of my favorite quotes. When performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. So the first thing is I build my course in Mimic. I make sure that I have checkpoints throughout the semester where I measure everything, whether it's with interviews, whether it's with rubrics. Return and report is the most important concept that I have in my classes. I get to know my students really, really well. I know when they're failing, I can go out and rescue them and find out what's going on. And then I reward my top performers for doing what they're supposed to be doing. So when performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. Okay, so here's the layers of BUHI that I've created. I treated the simulations as if they're a real business. So on the first day of the semester, I introduced the simulation. And I have an offer letter that I send out that says, you have been hired as a social media marketing manager for the BUHI Bag Company. And I have a list of all of the things that they're responsible for on behalf of this company. And then I have a dollar amount that I offer them, and it's modeled after a real offer letter. And all of the requirements, my outcomes for the semester are in that letter. And then I make them sign it and return it back to me. And I include this as part of my syllabus package. And they look at the offer letter, but it gives me on day one time to have a real discussion about this isn't just a class. We're going to treat this class as a real course that's going to be mimicking a real business. So they can understand when they come to class, they're not coming to class just for a lecture, but we're coming to class as a business meeting. I see a typo. That's bad news for me, but entrance interviews. I'm going to start implementing this semester an entrance interview the first week, where I'm going to have part of my class. I'm going to spend 5 to 6 minutes with each student. I'm going to get to know who they are, ask them what their goals are for the semester. I'm going to write them down, and then I'm going to hold them accountable to those goals. Midterm, I'm going to have a performance evaluation. I'm going to create a rubric that has the performance evaluation. I'm going to pull the students in. I'm going to look at what they gave me as their goals at the beginning. I'm going to look at what they're doing for the simulation. I'm going to walk through the simulation, look at the data, find out where areas of improvement, where we can improve. If I need to work with them on previous assignments, I want to make sure they're understanding what is being taught in the classroom and how it's being applied to them. And then at the end of the semester, I'm going to do an exit interview. I require my students to create a portfolio of all of their work. I make them take Mimic and do screen captures of what they've done, what they've learned, all of the content they've created, and upload it into a portfolio. And on that exit interview, we go through, I look at how they ranked. We go back and take an evaluation. You ranked poorly. Why did you rank poorly? What can they do to improve? If you did really well, my star performers, what did you like about it? And I start to glean information from them so I can go and improve the next semester. And what I'm finding, and this is the tough part about this course, is this isn't the course like my constitutional law class where the cases never change. I'm finding that I have to update this every semester. And I spend a lot of time revamping my courses so they stay current. And that's one of the things that I love about Stukent is that their books are updated constantly with the latest and greatest information. One of the other things I'm going to do is I'm going to have an employee of the week. It says month here. And then I'm going to highlight that person. I'm going to have a little prize for them. And it showed the class what they've done this week in the simulation and why they're my star performer of the week. I make my students do editorial calendars. Now in Mimic, there's a place in the library where you can go get the editorial calendars. I make them plan out their week in the editorial calendars, and they have to turn those editorial calendars in prior to posting all of the information in Mimic. So they're taking what they're learning, they put it in the editorial calendar, I look at it, and then they go and they make all of the posts and run the simulation. Now my students hate it. They cry and they complain about it, but the letters I get back from students that go and work in the industry is they're grateful because they understand I've done this and it's required to be in the business. And so I'll take those letters and I'll show them to my students and said, this is what your peers are saying. And so it makes the process a little bit easier. Content creation. For every post that they make in Mimic, they have to create a real video or post for it. If it's a TikTok video, they got to create the TikTok video and turn it in. Instagram story, they got to go in and create the Instagram story. I have my students go and put it in an account. They will do a screen recording and they'll just delete it. I try to keep as much stuff offline as possible, especially with Course Hero. I need to do a better job of that. But I make my students create all of the content. They're just not going in and running the simulation and doing a post, but they're actually going in and creating the content. Now I get a look at the content, they run the simulation, and it does a lot of things because content is king. We have to mimic what is happening in Mimic in real time with the platforms that our students are in. I create some case studies. I do one that I'll show you that I've shown before. And then at the end of the semester, they have a board meeting. And I'll show you some examples of that here in just a minute. Okay, so when we talk about content, so here's one of the videos that my students created. It was a promotional video for a backpack. So that's one example. So they posted this picture in the editorial calendar. This is what they're going to run. But then this is the content that they produced on that spot. So it becomes live content. So not only do they run in the simulation, they're creating the content as they would on a real job. I don't teach content creation. I need to do a better job of that. I let them just go with it and I try to let them use the tools that they have and see what they can do with it. Okay, the case study. So I've shown this example before and I've been asked to show it again, is show before telling with engaging, relevant, integrating marketing examples. I am a content consumer. I think that in order to practice what we teach, you have to be in the platforms. You have to know the trends. You have to know what's happening. You have to be involved in podcasts. I listen to podcasts all day. I consume more content than most people that it's healthy. All I do all day is consume content. I'm in the platforms. I'm trying to figure out TikTok. I'm looking for trends. I'm trying to find ideas that I can pull, that I can bring back into the classroom. I'm in all of the social media platforms. I'm looking for current trends. Social Media Examiner is a great place to go to find out what is the hot and relevant topics within the industry. So I go there. And then the other thing that's really important, I ask my students what they consume. I ask them what they're finding, what the trends are. And at the beginning of every class, I have my students come up and ask me what's relevant, what are they seeing, and then have them explain to me the science behind it. Why is it working? Why is it trending? Why is it not trending? What are they doing to promote it? And it creates a really interesting discussion that lets me then give credibility to what we're going to talk about. So a couple of years ago, I was, so Taylor Swift, I have a Taylor Swift case study that I use. I created it because I found this story online. I'll just show this to you. So I found this story online. It was a real story about a bag in Walmart. A lady went and purchased this purse in Walmart, and inside there was a note in the bag, and it was from one of the workers at a concentration camp, and it was asking for help to get out. Well, what I did is I took that letter, it's a real letter, and I put a case study around Taylor Swift because she was all the rage at that time in social media. And in the middle of the night, I sent this out to my class. They have no warning. We talked a little bit about crisis communications. And this is during the weekend simulation when everything's really busy. And I send it out in the middle of the night. They have 24 hours to complete the case study. And they have to change everything that they've done for the entire week in the simulation. Now, I take what they've done already and grade it because this isn't built into the simulation. This is one of the layers that I developed, but it causes them great frustration and they don't like me, but it's really fun to see what they've done. So I'm just going to read this quickly. I know we're running out of time, but a Nashville celebrity made a stunning discovery inside a BUHI bag that she bought at a Brentwood department store. A note apparently written by a desperate prisoner in China. Megastar Jesse Lightyear. I took Taylor out of it. Just, I don't want to get Taylor after me. Found a message written in Chinese, tucked inside the zipper compartment of the BUHI bag she purchased at the mall. Fox News, CNN, and Entertainment Tonight reported. Fox and CNN devoted wall-to-wall coverage on BUHI and their alleged shady practices on human rights violations. The story went when Lightyear posted and translated a note along with a picture of her bag with the BUHI logo placed prominently in her Instagram and Facebook accounts, which have an estimated reach of 174 million followers. It said, I'm an inmate at the Ying Sing prison in China. I work 14 hours every day and have no bathroom or rest breaks. And continue working overtime until midnight. Whenever it doesn't finish, the work will be beaten with a BUHI bag. Our meals are without oil, salt, or nutritional value, and people are malnourished. I get paid only 200 yen a month. If I'm sick and need medicine, the cost will be deducted from my salary. We are suffering from the most inhumane treatment and need your help. Please help us. So that's a real letter. I just created a case study around it. Let me show you what happens. So they do the assignment. Okay, so here's the assignment. So they go through the situation analysis, the stakeholders, the company relation and first responders, opening statement from the CEO, the social media crisis plan. And then I make them do a bunch of posts on Twitter, so on Twitter and in the platforms. So you can see this is the editorial calendar that comes into play. I make them do posts on Facebook. There's some videos that they've created, Instagram posts, continued response to customers, and then they return the report. And it's done remarkably well. I need to refresh it, but it's one of those things that the students, when they're done with it, they love it. Okay, the other thing I do is I do a board meeting. This is the way my board meeting works at the end of the semester. It's return and report. So I make them create a video and they have to go from the goals at the beginning of the semester, take the feedback from the semester, and they have to return and report what they've done over the semester, because when performance improves, great things happen. And during the board meeting, I have envelopes that I give out, and on the envelopes, they open them up and there's 3 questions and they have to respond to the questions, and we go from there. Let me show you what this kind of looks like.
Hi, how's everyone doing? We're excited that you're out here. We've really been looking forward to showing you the goals and the outcomes of the third quarter. And so we're really glad that you made your way out here, and we hope, we know that you're going to like what you hear, what happened here at BUHI. So first we want to show you the goals from the CMO that he'd given us for this third quarter. The first goal was to spend your entire budget. The second was to spend your budget wisely. The third goal is to grow your brand awareness. The fourth, increase engagement. The fifth, increase sales. The sixth, outperform your peers. So for this, we're going to show you how we did on these 6 goals that the CMO has given us for that third quarter. So the first goal was spend the entire budget. We did a fantastic job at this. We were very, very pleased with the crew that was working with us in this. We spent to the dollar every single week this quarter. We spent to the dollar our budget, which we were given $5,000, and every single week, like I said, we spent $5,000 to the dollar. Our second goal was,
Just let me get back to the end of this so you can see what's in the middle.
hi, how's everyone doing? We're excited that you're out here with, and we've already touched on that a lot, and it's in the marketing plan how we are going to solve that. And so not that it's a threat anymore, but at the time it was a minor threat to our company here at BUHI Bags. As well as, obviously, we're always going to have competitors. The difference is we don't really look at.
Okay, so you can see that it's return and report. I'll be happy to share these videos with you. My email is Labaugh J. It's LA, B as in boy, AUGHJ at BYUI.edu. And I'm happy to share my content with you. And then the other thing I want to show you is what happens when they leave. So they do the board meeting, they leave. I had a student go and do an internship at Disney World. And she said, during my internship on the marketing strategy team at Walt Disney World, we would meet regularly with the social media team to review metrics of running campaigns. She says the simulation I participated in gave metrics after each round. And she's talking about mimic here.
Will you hit slideshow again, just so we can read that, so we can make sure we're seeing
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're doing great. This is excellent.
So she says the simulation I participated in gave metrics after each round that I was able to learn from to improve my marketing. This was helpful when I saw similar data. I was able to understand the metrics in front of me and the work with the team to drive success. I enjoyed trial and error learning, and the simulation gave me the opportunity to learn that style and make me a better marketer. And this is one of the things that got her the internship. I'm going to click on this. I hope this works. She helped create this. So she, from all of the content creation and what she did in the simulation, she got this awesome internship, and she's able to showcase her talents. And this is one of the teams that she was on at Disney. Can you guys see this video?
Yep, we can see it.
Let's do this.
All right. The one thing I would tell you that I would do is to make sure you follow your students. We have these alumni boards. We have a job board here in our office. We promote our courses, but follow your alumni because they'll go and they'll do great things. Like Darby went to Disney, and now I have somebody there that I can pull back into my class. And when the students that have ran the simulation, that love Mimic, go out into the real world, send me the letters back that this changed my life, this got me a promotion, I then bring them into my class and have them go and give me an endorsement of the product. And when it comes from their peers, they're more engaged in the process, and it's a win-win situation. Thanks for your time. What questions do you have?
Thanks, Jack. There are a couple questions that came in, so I'll field some of those for you. So the first question was, how long is the term for this class?
So I do this, it's remarkable. We have 14-week semesters. And so I start on day one. I send out my information prior to the class starting. So we used to have 16-week semesters. We're now into 14 weeks because we run a track system. It's kind of different. And so there's a lot of information. If you have a longer semester, it's easier to do, but I actually have homework for them that's due on the first day of class. So make up, so I can get a 15-week in there.
And approximately how many students do you have in your classes? There was someone that said they'd love to do these as one-on-ones, but they have 45 students in each course. And so
I have 35.
Nice. And
And
any
so what I do
for managing
is
that?
35, and I'll teach 2 sections of it, so I have 70. And so I'm going to try it with 5-minute interviews, and then I'm going to train my TA to help me do the interviews.
Awesome.
And my TA is someone that has taken the course.
And then another question. So you used Marketing Principles courseware and the Mimic social simulation. Is there enough corresponding content within the Principles courseware for the simulation, or do you have to bring in extra?
Oh, okay, so let me break that up. I'm right now developing the outside content for BUHI, like I did. What I showed you with the BUHI simulation is for the social media marketing text. It's not the marketing book that I showed you earlier. I'm sorry if I created confusion there.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Someone mentioned they like the stop motion that had been shared. They're curious, since there isn't content creation taught specifically as part of the course, is the quality of the content marked or evaluated in some way, or is it not assessed?
I need to be tougher. I assess it, but if you let these students go out like the humanities courses, they didn't teach anything. They were worried our students don't know how to do this. And the stuff came back and the faculty were just blown away by how great the content was. I give them a basic design principles, just a quick 25-minute lecture. This is what I'm looking for because I want them to get involved in the process, but creating the creativity of it, I'm not too tough there.
I'm sure your students appreciate that.
Yeah, well.
For the crisis project, how long does that run for? Is that a 24-hour?
It's a 24-hour campaign.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how many hours a week do you have the course? That's another
So
question.
we run it, we teach 90-minute courses, so we meet twice a week.
Okay. And is the class offered online or face-to-face or hybrid?
Both, it's online and face-to-face.
Okay. Two separate,
They're
or?
two separate. So I don't teach the online version, but we have faculty that's all they do is teach online. So we teach it face-to-face here, and we run about 4 to 5 sections face-to-face, and then our online is huge.
So we had a question from a new professor. How do they sell this course or a course like this to a dean or a committee and to the students as well?
It's a good question. When we went back for the marketing principles, the selling points, because I had to get a lot of people in a room. I had to get my people in a room, and I had to get the team at Stukent in the room. And because there were some technology, some challenges that we had dealing with international countries, and for them to be able to download and use the simulation. But I went in and I used the data that Stukent provides. It's on their website of the power of the simulation, the study that they had. I'd go and find faculty members like myself. I'm happy to meet with you or your teams to go in and to give an endorsement of it. I'm helping with Stukent right now with an onboard at Alabama. And there's just some issues that we've worked around, and this international deal that I'm working with Stukent on now has been a big eye opener in terms of all of the pieces and all the people that need to put in play. Because this adoption that we had with the marketing strategy is going to be tens of thousands of people. And so it's a big one. But the selling point is the success stories. I now have all of the data to go back to my department and say, look, this is what I'm hearing from my students. These are the jobs they're getting. And it all comes back because what they're doing in Mimic. But I'm happy to reach out, let me know. I'm happy to talk with you offline on that.
Awesome. Yeah, we posted your email in the chat. We can do that again for anyone that wants to reach out to continue that conversation. And also a question with that, are you willing to share templates and rubrics for the assignments?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll put those together. Just send me an email if you're interested, and I'll get those mailed out.
Yeah, and you can send them to us too. We can put them on
Okay.
on a page with this presentation. Somebody else asked, they love the crisis idea, but what happens if a student complains that they had class all day and didn't see it come in? I'm sure you've never heard that, but
Okay, so here's the deal. At the beginning of the semester, when I talk about this as a real job, you're going to treat it like a real job, because I came out of the corporate world. And so I tell them that they have to monitor their email all the time, because during the semester, something bad might go on. I give them a hint, and I'll remind them that something bad could happen. What's going on? Are you looking? And I communicate with my students. If I see something that's happening great or trends, I'll send out an email saying, hey, look at this great example of what's happening in the industry. Look at everything that they've done for Top Gun Maverick. Look at this promotional stuff. So I'm in constant contact with my students. And then I start just dropping hints. Make sure you're looking, something bad could have happened. Now, what happens if they complain? I hear their stories, and I may extend a deadline. I'm a little bit of a pushover, but I have a graded scale where those that complete it are in the upper tier. And that's just something that you have to negotiate and find out for yourself. But I do get complaints, and I am the most hated man on campus, but when they come away from the experience to see what they can do in those 24 hours, and I try to stay away from busy times like midterms or final prep. I kind of take a poll in class of what they're doing in other classes to find out when I'm going to drop it.
awesome. During the board meeting, how many students are in the room at a time?
Okay, the great question. So the board meeting, because of COVID, what I do is I send the link to the instructions, and then they just record the video in their apartments. And it's just one-on-one, so I have to look at all the videos.
Okay.
You could do it in a group setting.
And do you have students work in teams on the simulation or work through it individually?
We do it as individuals.
As individuals, okay.
For some of the content stuff, they'll team up. Like the backpack video was a team, and then they can use that same content. But either or, I'm still messing with it. I mess with this thing every semester.
Definitely. Somebody else said, let's see, we addressed that one about the crisis issue. Let me see, I know there were a few more questions that came in. Are all of the courses using the same assignments, all those courses that you mentioned?
Yes. for the most part. I do some little things different than some of the other teachers, but we're all using Mimic, we're all going through the simulation. So probably 95% of the content.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I think that's most of our questions. So thank you, Jack, for your time and for sharing your knowledge and all the work you've put into this awesome course and all that you're doing for your students there at BYU Idaho.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great ProfCon. Sorry for the technology issues. Reach out to me, send me an email. I'm happy to connect. I'm trying to get a group of people together where we can start creating this content because you guys have great ideas and we can start building this content around the simulation. And when we do that, great things are going to happen. You're going to see what happens in the simulation come to life, and your students are going to